So we're going to see Epstein's international child trafficking stuff come out. It's going to lead back to the Clintons. It's going to get bad. It's going to get serious very soon.
Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report. Before we begin this interview, and it's an important one about the Q book controversy, I just want to say a couple of things. Last night when the news of this horrific shooting in New Zealand was released, I was horrified when I went to Twitter and found out from journalist Nick Monroe that Candace Owens had been named in the shooter's 74-page manifesto as his biggest influence. Quote, "The person that has influenced me above all, Candace Owens." This is so obviously a psyop of some sort. And when I retweeted that last night, of course, it's been taken down. Twitter has taken down Nick Monroe's original tweets and copies of the manifesto. All of this is being scrubbed to the best of the abilities of the social media giants. I immediately suspected some sort of psyop, and it called to mind NATO's Operation Gladio. Look it up, research it. Most of you know what that is, but stay behind networks blowing things up and killing people and blaming their enemies. And the question I have, and everyone has today, is in New Zealand, where they've already seized the average person's guns, where did the shooter get the weapons expertise? And why is his manifesto such an absolute mess? At one point, calling himself a communist, at another point, demanding that people subscribe to PewDiePie, and again, saying that the person that influenced me above all was Candace Owens, a person who has certainly never, ever advocated violence in any way. I was horrified for her when I read that, because imagine had he said his biggest influence was SGT Report, or his biggest influence was Breitbart.com, or his biggest influence was ZeroHedge.com, or his biggest influence was Steven Crowder. It's so clear now that the enemies of the freedom movement will do anything to disparage, sully, and destroy the freedom movement. So we'll keep our eye on this story because it is a horrifying one. And again, research Operation Gladio and ask yourself, cui bono, who benefits? What group that cannot be criticized benefits from this type of infighting between Muslims and Christians, between white people and black people, Christianity and Islam? What one group that can't be criticized benefits from all of this? The Mossad came to mind, again, as did Operation Gladio and the CIA and every other intelligence agency aligned against sovereignty and nationalism and standing on the side of globalism and a one-world government and a one-world religion. Sadly, until the true deep state criminals are drummed out, rounded up, indicted, and tried for their crimes, these types of heinous crimes against humanity are probably going to continue. But they will never, ever be mandated by, approved of, or called for by anyone in the freedom and pro-sovereignty movements. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for this very compelling interview with Dustin Nemos, which is brought to you in part by our friends at Patriot Flashlight. This Survivor Tactical Flashlight is solar powered and it lights up the darkness with 500 lumens that can be seen miles away. There's a life-saving emergency strobe along with 4 more unique lighting modes, and the Patriot Flashlight even has a USB port which allows you to charge your cell phone anywhere. Your Patriot Tactical Flashlight is also equipped with a compass, wire and rope cutter, and an emergency glass breaking hammer. It's the perfect gift for you and your family. There is a limited supply of these tactical flashlights available right now, so get yours at a discount before they sell out. Use promo code SGT25. You'll be able to save 25% off your purchase and purchase the best flashlight on the market at patriotflashlight.com. I'll leave the link below this video. Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in. It's great to have you back because it's us against them. Where we go one, we go all, and it's very clear who the enemies of humanity are now. I'll name one, Facebook. They will not let me post the video about vaccines that I just made the other day. They won't allow it. And should I be shocked? No, probably not, because just a few days ago, Wired and other mainstream media publications said Facebook to start cracking down on anything anti-vaccine related. This is an information war, guys, and we were winning, and now they're cheating. YouTube's cheating, Twitter's cheating, Google, Facebook, they're all cheating to bury the truth or just discourse in general. They don't even want conversations like this one with Dustin Nemos to occur. Dustin, welcome.
Hey, Sean, man, how have you been?
I've been okay, man. Thanks for joining us. And I want to talk to you about many things. I know that you also have issues with Asperger's and autism, and you've really done your research on autism and Asperger's recovery, so we can talk a little bit about that. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is Q. And of course, you and another guy came up with this idea to do a book about QAnon. It's called An Invitation to the Great Awakening by Where We Go One, We Go All. And there's been some controversy about it. I wanted to talk to you about that controversy. And full disclosure, guys, I should note that Dustin invited me to be one of the authors and to write a chapter in this book. And I was very flattered. And after a couple of days of thinking about it, I got back to Dustin saying, I just don't have time to do the service that this would require to do as good a job as I think I would like to do. So I declined. Then the book came out. It's done very, very well on Amazon, and I think that got some people's feathers ruffled because people think that there shouldn't be capitalism and nobody should be making money off of any book that's Q-related. Guys, this is an info war. The vaccine pushers make billions and billions of dollars hurting our kids, and I don't think that it's fair to say that folks can't write a book and put it out in the market and see how it does about any topic. Dustin, what are your thoughts on the controversy surrounding the book?
Well, oh man, I never thought it would be as big as it is, for one. And then the controversy, really, there is no controversy. There's a couple of people that are spreading just outright deceptions, putting in words that are not there, for example, are taking things completely out of context, even the Q posts themselves, people who have been around long enough to know better. So, there was some confusion around the Where We Go One, We Go All.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. Who is the other editor of the book? It was you and who else?
Captain Roy from
Captain
the Reddit
Roy.
post.
Yeah, okay. I'm not very familiar with Captain Roy, but yes, you and Captain Roy reached out to me to take part in the book as well, and that just didn't work out on my end. But the controversy I saw on Twitter is that somebody had discerned or somebody had maybe misunderstood that you guys claim to be the official spokespeople of Where We Go One, We Go All, which there are no official.
I caught this really early. Actually, I caught this really early on Twitter, and I clarified Where We Go in this context. Where We Go One, We Go All is just the author, and we're the spokespeople for the author, because everybody in the group didn't want to be bothered with like interview requests and all these questions and such. Which unfortunately now they're all being harassed. But I'm trying to just sort of help them out and get ahead of that. And I did catch that pretty early, but there are people who are just still pushing that. And that's kind of strange. It's funny because originally we did this to actually honor the Anon community. The Where We Go One, We Go All spirit, something I've been promoting from day one. So I didn't really get that at all, but it's turned a good into a bad. And that's kind of a sad thing.
Now, the book's doing really well, and my understanding was that you were going to share the profits equally between all of the authors. Is that what's happening here? Just so people understand the structure of this.
What profit there is. I mean, it's split many ways, and we have to recoup costs, and Amazon did play kind of with the price right at the beginning and sort of stiff us in that way. But I'm assuming that we will, at least break even. The publisher's going to get paid. There may be some profit. What's left is split evenly among all authors, and then many of them have decided that they'd like to put it to charity. And that's as far as I really went with that myself. I didn't really pursue which charity was going to be done. So I think that there have been a few different ones mentioned. I think one that is really popular is actually the Flynn Family Defense Fund. And I think that one is sort of, I haven't asked everybody in the group if that's kind of a good idea yet, or if they have their heart set on something else. But that's kind of the one I would lean for toward myself. But on the other hand, I myself, I'm like yourself. I've got a media business to do, and I've got people to hire, and I've got help to pay for and such. So I do have costs, and I'm going to do this as a capitalist, and I'm going to try to change the world and do so in a win-win way.
And will there be a proper accounting of all the numbers so that everybody involved has full disclosure? And how many books have you guys sold so far? Do you know?
As far as I know, this is like a legitimate publisher who's had many bestsellers and everything else under her belt. This is a real business that we're dealing with here. She's done all of the, and she's kind of, even irritating in that way, like in a friendly, irritating way, in that she really keeps us from kind of doing off into some sort of illegality or accidental mistake or anything like that. I mean, she kind of knows this business really well. So we've relied on her to keep everything above board, and that's, I'm not concerned about that at all.
Right. Do you know how many books you guys have sold so far?
I think we did go over 5,000, which was supposed to be our break-even point, but that was at the original price. And then, Amazon just really dumped the price down, especially compared to books that were less popular and less trending, which was sort of of note.
Yeah, Amazon just banned Carrie Rivera's book about autism recovery. These people are waging war against humanity. I don't know how else to say it. I don't think I'm overstating it either, because in Carrie's case, if you have a child who's vaccine damaged, she has some protocols and some ways that might help you and help your child. And Amazon doesn't want you reading that book. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, I do a video about the dangers of vaccines, the very real dangers, which J.B. Handley roundly pointed out when he was on the TV show The Doctors, by explaining to the establishment pro-doctor who is on that show, The Doctors, one of the hosts, that out of the, I think, 36 vaccines right now that are quote-unquote mandatory, out of the 36, only one vaccine has been actually studied, and out of the 35 ingredients in that vaccine, only one of those ingredients has been studied. So when these doctors like to proselytize about the health and the necessity of vaccines, while the autism rate is now 1 in 50 or 1 in 55 in this country, it's absolute disinformation. But they won't allow the real information, the real exchange of ideas and information to take place anymore on Facebook. And I guess not on Amazon either, Dustin.
Up has been down for a long time, and we've really gone way past where Orwell saw it heading. And I've got to say, there's this lively debate online where you can speak freely if you go and you know where to look. But elsewhere, there's really not much of that, and there's just sort of a one size fits all top down authoritarian dogma that you're supposed to just unquestioningly go along with, and that's not working anymore. I think people are finally waking up, and that's why we're seeing this push everywhere across the board in this area and in others on all of our freedoms and our health everywhere. They're just desperate, and they're about to finally break.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. I got to ask you about Q, Dustin. I'm getting a little bit frustrated, all of us are, by this idea of trust the plan when we are all under attack. Everybody who stood up and stood for this president when he was a candidate and stood against the tyranny of Hillary Clinton and made video after video trying to impart information, trying to enlighten people about the fact that he was a different candidate who would actually stand for the country and stand for our sovereignty and stand for the borders and stand for the First and Second Amendment. Let's talk about the First Amendment. We are all under attack now, and I don't see this president doing anything to rein in these social media giants. Are we just supposed to continue to trust this plan until they shut us all up permanently?
That's a good question. I kind of came at this YouTube thing as a kamikaze pilot. I never really thought it would go anywhere, and I'm still sort of surprised that it has. So I don't really, sometimes I sort of expect it all to just disappear one day. But I've definitely felt that. I felt the censorship. I felt the complete war on truth. I felt all of the attacks and all of the sort of the blows and arrows that you've talked about. I don't know. I feel like the energy is there. I feel like the momentum is finally there. We've had to sort of play the wall for a while. We've had to kind of play martyr for a while. And that's what's generated that energy. That's what's built up finally enough energy on our side to finally get people off their couches and kind of eyes on. So I think in a way, it's been a worthy sacrifice, and I think it's almost ready to pay off. There's so much that's coming out now, in regards to the Clintons and Comey and everything. Maybe that's what has to happen first. Maybe we have to get a big D-class, a couple of big arrests. I sort of suspect Obama's going to be one of the first round of arrests now, just based on some of the recent cues. So at this point, I think maybe that hits, and then we scare some of these big media folks out of what they're doing. If they see Obama and Hillary go down, they're going to realize that it's over.
Well, here's the thing, man. Let's read post 3041 from Q. The unsealing of the first several indictments will bring about unity and change that we can believe in. All right, well, that does sound like maybe an Obama nod. Returning power to the people, returning the rule of law to our land. We stand together. We stand together as patriots. Q. All right, I agree with all that. We stand together as patriots, and we stand against the tyranny of evil men and women like Hillary Clinton. But I just want to say a couple of things here. As it relates to the DOJ, we see them doing these big public dog and pony shows talking about the rich Hollywood parents that were cheating and bribing to get their kids into Ivy League schools. And we're seeing people like Felicity Huffman of Desperate Housewives get arrested, and the actress from Full House get arrested. And we see people like Jussie Smollett getting arrested. That's great. They're all criminals. They've all done wrong. They should be prosecuted. But meanwhile, we have not seen one high-level arrest of anyone on the D side of the aisle, only people on the R side of the aisle, people who are accused of colluding with Russia and Trump. So when are we going to see these high-level arrests?
You know, I suspect that it's kind of the Overton window theory, that we had to really go through some things to get people to this point where now when they do something like a Jussie Smollett, where they just pull off some sort of bogus banner, well, what they're really doing is they're just setting themselves up for massive failure and exposure. Like, it's not working as well anymore. I think that is the real thing to focus on here. The tactics that they're using have sort of been revealed to the the public at large. Even the regular MAGA folks are starting to get it. So, that is the prelude. Now people are starting to understand the tactics, and then they're ready for the D-class. So Mueller's thing just ended. D-class is right around the corner, I suspect. Obama goes down. Everyone has a chilling effect across the whole deep state. They realize no one is untouchable. And that's kind of where I think it's about to head. I just feel the energy's there.
Well, Dustin, I think they handed us the roadmap on how to do this, right? We now know what it looks like, and we knew it because of common sense. But if you look at the Jussie Smollett case, once the facts were laid out, once law enforcement had a press conference and laid out some of the facts, and once the mainstream media was forced to actually cover what really went on there, a self-inflicted attack, a false flag of sorts that Jussie Smollett carried out on himself, the public opinion turned against him overnight. And that's what we need to see as it pertains to people like Hillary Clinton and Adam Schiff and John and Tony Podesta and every other criminal, Obama, Barry Soetoro, everyone else who has committed hardcore sedition and treason, far greater crimes than Jussie Smollett. That's what we need to see happen. We know what the roadmap is. Lay out the facts in the public square, and the tide will turn. It's that simple.
Well, I think it really has escalated since Kavanaugh. I think that was sort of a beginning of the end moment for them, and that's sort of when they reached peak hysteria. And everything since then has just been dramatic and over the top, drastic desperation. And I just think that all of the, supposedly Barr just gave Mueller the go ahead to, put something out on the Trump kids, and of course Kushner. If that's the case, then that is going to generate a lot of negative energy toward the bad guys. It's kind of good energy, you might say. Because our side is going to realize that this is serious. These folks are taking it to our president's family. This is just treason and trying to hurt him, and they're not going to stand for it. People are going to demand like they've never demanded anything before, that these people back off our president and his family. And that's going to give him all of the energy that he needs to go after even Obama or even Hillary Clinton. He's been floating words like treason lately. It's all getting into the Overton window. I'm frankly surprised how fast they've been able to do it. Just based on the trends, just based on sort of the overall 20,000 foot, it looks good to me.
Guys, why did I mention Adam Schiff among the criminals that are guilty of really hardcore crimes? Let's review Q Post 3039. I'll read these 4 tweets from Representative Jim Jordan. They go like this, guys. Why did Adam Schiff say that his talks with Michael Cohen were limited to inviting him and allaying any concerns about threats to his family, but not mention the 14 hours his staff spent prepping Cohen before the hearing? Next tweet. Why did Adam Schiff fail to disclose that he met with Glenn Simpson, whose dossier opposition research was funded by the Clinton campaign, in Aspen? In this tweet, why did Adam Schiff falsely claim in his memo that Bruce Orr hadn't communicated his relationship with Chris Steele to the FBI prior to the 2016 election? And the final one, why did Adam Schiff try to block Congress from learning that the Clinton campaign paid for the dossier? So it all comes back to the fake, phony, Clinton paid for Russiagate dossier that they used to try to frame President Trump. So the hardcore criminals, we know who they are. Q knows who they are. The white hats know who they are. So I guess I'll say this, Dustin, if we don't see indictments and perp walks, arrests of these hardcore criminals this year in 2019, I am jumping off the Q bandwagon.
You know, I don't blame you. I think a lot of people feel that way. It's definitely been a trying, a patience trying, adventure the whole time. It's been fun in some ways, but, we do want justice for sure. I suspect we're about to see Rosenstein go down next, and then from there, it's just going to be crazy. We over in Nexium world, we see Nancy Salzman or whatever. I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's taking a deal, so she's going to start ratting. That's like the ex-president, So big names are going to be coming out soon, I think. And Epstein's files are about to be, unsealed, at least potentially. They're moving that way. And why would they move that way unless there was some sort of real weight behind it? I can't imagine they're going to bring it to the trial and not get there. So they're going to make that happen too. So we're going to see Epstein's international child trafficking stuff come out. It's going to lead back to the Clintons. It's going to get bad. It's going to get serious very soon.
All righty. Well, guys, you can go to the Q posts. You can read them all at qanon.pub, and you can find out about Mueller's connection to Uranium One and Russia. So you can figure out where the real Russian collusion was between Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Russia, Uranium One. You can learn about the Clinton Foundation and the pay-for-play spider web. And that's where the hardcore bribery. You want to talk about Felicity Huffman? And you want to talk about the actress from Full House bribing officials in schools to get their kids into Ivy League? You want to talk about hardcore bribery? Hardcore bribery and hardcore criminality, you have to look at the Clinton Foundation. That's where all the hardcore bribery is. And the tens of millions of dollars missing from the people of Haiti. Or was it billions, Dustin? Maybe it was 12.
It was a couple of billion, actually.
God, it's just the numbers get so big.
And they're still mad about it. They're still out there protesting the Clintons and being ignored and covered up. And it doesn't fit the narrative, blacks that are against the Clintons just, oh no, except that they've said things like super predators and they all look alike and stuff, but they get a pass. It's cracking, man. The whole thing is coming down.
Yeah, the people of Haiti despise the Clintons because the people of Haiti were supposed to benefit from the telethon. Do you remember that? I think it was Bill Clinton, and George Bush.
Like a single thing, did they?
Yeah, they raised like 11 or 12 billion dollars for the people of Haiti, and I think less than 5% of that ever went back to the people of Haiti in any sort of infrastructure or benefit. So the Clintons just looted the money.
It goes all the way back to when she was young. I mean, she had ethics crises then. I mean, she's always been there in the background, the people that she associated with, her mentor, KKK members, outright weirdos and pedophiles and folks who've got, art of a pedophilic nature all over the place. Just the folks in her network, there's always something going on. And there's my squeaky door.
That is a squeaky door.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to switch gears here, guys, and we're going to talk about the very real dangers of vaccines, which I've been talking about more and more lately. As they tell me I can't, as they try to censor us, of course, then I just dig in my heels and go after those very topics they say are off limits. It's just in my nature. It's the bulldog. It's the bulldog I am. I can't help it. But I have suffered from the vaccines because I have two boys that got all of the vaccines when they were little. And it's been a real sad thing for us because each of them suffered in different ways. And Dustin, I know that you've done a lot of research about helping kids who have been damaged by vaccines. You also have this stuff called C60, which I want you to be able to talk about if you want to mention that, talk about the benefits of it. But tell people about some of the protocols about which you're aware that might help them if they have kids that are on the autism spectrum.
Sure. And I want to mention, I got into the health thing to try to save my grandparents because I saw, cancer and such killing them. And it did get my grandpa so far. And I really just wanted to help people not suffer as much, maybe be healthy. And that, I've learned a lot over the years researching that. And chelation's a cool topic. And I'll get to that in just a second. But One time I had to get my dog some dental work, and she had to get a vaccine, just a standard rabies vaccine, just so that they would do the dental work, even though it's like 1 out of every 2 million or something a year there. It's like not a very common thing at all in the whole state. But they sort of push that on you with sort of a fear porn culture. I've even seen like brains in jars and all these fear stories that they'll try to share to scare you into it, just like with your kids or anything else. And I got this vaccine, and a couple of days later, I had to hold my dog as she was put down because she wouldn't stop having seizures, just nonstop and screaming.
Oh, God.
So, this is not something I ever want anyone to have to go through.
Well, this is one of the side effects of vaccines. They know this. They know that seizures can be a side effect of the vaccines. Extremely high temperatures, 105, 106 degrees, life-threatening temperatures in babies. That's what happened to my kids. They always got these terrible fevers, is what I'm trying to say, that are very life-threatening, and that's when the damage is being done. And they'll tell you, oh, nope, that's just a normal. That's how you know the vaccine's working, Dustin. The seizures, that's how you know it's working.
That is how you know it's working, as a sort of a depopulation tool, yeah.
That's right. I firmly believe this is all part of Rockefeller eugenics medicine. And I cannot believe that doctors, like that doctor in that clip from the TV show The Doctors with J.B. Hanley, are so bought and paid for and willing to be complicit in this system where they have to know. Look, I would imagine most doctors are smarter than me. Maybe not. Maybe they're not smarter than you.
Willful ignorance.
Can't figure this out, Dustin. But they're complicit if they can't figure this out, because it's so obvious that the autism is linked in some way to the chemical. Look, I call vaccines at this point chemical weapons delivery systems. I believe that's firm. I firmly believe that's what they are.
No, you can clearly demonstrate that if you sit down, you look at all of the evidence, you look at all the scandals, you look at all of the cover-ups. I've interviewed people like Dr. Judy Mikovits about this. She went to prison for being a whistleblower. I've interviewed Dr. Christopher Shade. He's the one that gave me the really cool recipe I talked to you about with chelation and pulling out some of the heavy metals and sort of undoing what damage can be undone. No claims made or anything. And he has some other interviews out there with Dr. Mercola that sort of a must see for this, because it can be dangerous to do chelation. But if you understand and you kind of go through a gentle self protocol at home, like I'm sort of doing for myself, because I had all the silver amalgams and everything in my mouth at one point with cavities, and I had a ton of mercury exposure. He gives you a simple at home recipe in that video I did with him for pulling out a lot of the metals, prepping your organs, getting them ready to dump those metals, and then hitting them with the right things to kind of chelate or move them out of the brain and other areas where they're sort of stuck right now, causing the damage. It's not a quick process, but people have reported at least some amazing things, or even outright recoveries from issues like, dare I even say, I'm not making any claims or anything, but issues like autism, even recovery from things like dementia and such. And even speaking to that, you mentioned the C60 thing. Yeah, the C60 is another thing that's sort of changing the world. It's not really sort of focused in the autism or heavy metals area, but just in general, like health overall, we've already sold out the industry for 2 months at a time at the end of last year. So it's really just now catching on to people. But the quick version of that is they tried to give it to rats as a toxicity study to test what would kill them, and they ended up to be living twice the normal rat's maximum lifespan. So it's like the human living to be 200 after they try to kill you. So it's a really interesting thing, and then it's got all of these other potential applications. The research shows things like 86% reduction in acne. It shows wrinkle reduction. It shows cosmetic beauty applications. Exercise, workout applications, faster recovery time, hair regrowth, 16% on the scalp. I mean, it's got some very interesting research around it, but the internal use is even more exciting. It's worth looking into for anyone that's interested in sort of a cost-effective health remedy.
Okay, I'm vaguely familiar with it. I think I've heard Cliff High and maybe Jason Joe and a couple of other people I know talk about C60.
It's cutting edge, yeah.
Is that the same stuff? All right, what is C60?
It's a little nano-sized molecule that looks like a little soccer ball, and it's just carbon except for it has this sort of vacuum effect on free radicals, and it's the world's strongest antioxidant. So when you're on it, and it lasts for like 2 or 3 days, 72 hours or so in your system, as I understand it. So when you're on it, you're sort of protected almost completely from oxidative stress and free radicals. Now that's a big deal. That's what causes a lot of the aging. And when that happens, you have all of this leftover energy. Your body sort of shifts into healing instead of fighting. Then you start seeing one of the most reported things that people report with it is it helps with age-related macular degeneration or vision loss. Problems with the eyes. One example, when I first heard of this stuff myself, I think it was the Sarah Westall channel. I think it was one of the NASA scientists. I can never remember his name, Phil or something. But he had given it to his mother, who's in her 90s. She had not been driving for years. She had been wearing glasses since she was 42, and she, within a few months of using this, was able to get rid of the glasses and drive again, and to barely even need her cane. So it's sort of an incredible sort of second wind for folks in that older bracket who kind of given up on anything else working.
Well, I want to give you an opportunity to tell us where to buy it. If it's something that, are you marketing C60? Is this something you sell?
I am one of the few people in the market who sold it originally, although right now there are a ton of people sort of catching on to it. It's sort of like a Bitcoin or something in the early stages. Like no one really knows yet, but it's about to change the world. And I can only wait for the day when they're trying to shut it down. I really hope that we get it out to the masses before that happens.
Okay, but I mean, I'm serious. I would actually like to buy a bottle of this stuff and give it a shot. So where do we get it?
All right. Well, my website is apexhealth.club. And, some of the perks with me is that, one, you kind of know who you're dealing with. I've been around in sort of the retail aspect of Carbon 60 for quite a while. As that goes, it's only been for about a year, but that's pretty early on when this thing started to catch. At that time, it was basically just a few labs selling it to each other and a few places that were selling it online to people.
Okay.
And, we've sort of kind of built up the industry. I'm not a huge part of it, but I'm like a single digit percentage of that industry. It's kind of a tiny industry at the moment. But it did catch so fast that we sold out all of the producers, all of the labs that even know how to make it last year for 2 months. Could not keep it in stock. So it's really neat in that respect. So with me, you get to have some security in that, you get a trusted brand. I'm out there actually hunting down people who are selling fake stuff. Like, I won't name names or anything and pick fights right now on your show, but people who are selling activated charcoal, which is great, but it's not $200 a gram base price great. It's great for other things. People who are selling wood ash or something and saying that they feel like it has C60 in it, and that's fake. And there are people who may even be kind of selling the unclean stuff that has the solvents in it, and that's a problem. Stuff like toluene is in that, and that could be toxic to people. And that's something I've been trying to get with the other industry leaders and say, we kind of need some sort of seal of authenticity here.
Yeah, the supplement industry is largely unregulated, but that's a good thing if you can find a source you can trust, because you don't have to deal with big pharma. Big pharma is the source of so much evil. Well, look at the opioid crisis, my friend, and look at the vaccines again. And we can round this conversation out by saying that the attack on children and families is very real. And it is funny, Dustin, that they don't want us to have the right to choose whether or not to vaccinate, but they want to give women the right to choose to abort their babies up to the very last day before birth in New York State and now in other areas of the country. They're pushing hard for this. And guys, I would advise everybody to go to vaxopedia.org to keep an eye on the new vaccine bills and laws in 2019. The idea of vaccine mandates is becoming a big concern as they push this outbreak of measles as the reason that vaccines must become mandatory. Folks, if you don't inform yourself, you're going to end up with an injured child. And I don't wish it on anybody. It's a life sentence for you and your children. Dustin, final word from you. Again, shout out your websites, your YouTube channel, and I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, Sean, thank you. And I want to give you a gift for your audience. Maybe probably like a 10% off on apexhealth.club. I'll set it up as a code. It'll probably be like SGT10 or something, but you can have it to link in later. But it's apexhealth.club, and that sort of is what funds the media arm of what I'm doing, because as you know, the censorship. And then DustinNemos.com for the kind of the full picture with the politics. The other one's just kind of the health thing, and I sort of know politics on there as much as I can. And Dustin Nemos 2 on YouTube is at least until they ban me, and then it'll be 3 and 4 and on and on. So thank you for having me on, Sean. It's as always a pleasure, and keep up the fight, man. You do great work.
Oh, thank you, man. Back at you. I appreciate you coming on. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate your support. A special shout out to my patrons. You're keeping me in the fight as YouTube changes the rules of the game in the middle of the game. So thank you very much. And do visit us for real news 24/7, the antidote to corporate propaganda, at my website, sgtreport.com. You can also check out hand-selected videos I curate for you and choose from YouTube. Really enlightening stuff on thephaser.com. And the best aggregator site for real news, alternative news, and truth at thelibertymill.com. Guys, thanks so much. We love you. Thanks for tuning in. God bless. Bye-bye.
When you use Google, do you get more than one answer? Of course you do.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's a bug. We have more bugs per second in the world. Because we should be able to give you the right answer just once.